In Flushing, New York, Sportschannel presents Mets Baseball. Today, the Mets take on the Houston Astros. The starting pitchers for the game. For the Astros, strikeout king Nolan with a record of 4-6, an earned run average of 4.70. And for the Mets, sensational Dwight Gooden with a record of 9-3, an earned run average of 2.70. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Kiner, along with Fran Healy and also Tim McCarver, all set for the second game of this series, a four-game series. Last night, one of the most thrilling ball games the Mets have had when they won it with 2 home runs in the 10th inning, winning by a score of 6-5. And here tonight, a matchup, I should say today, a matchup with Dwight Gooden and Nolan Ryan, 2 of the most outstanding pitchers in the National League. Ryan, of course, the all-time strikeout king, and he still throws the ball somewhere around 96 miles an hour. And going against him, the youngster Dwight Gooden. And Dwight Gooden has done things at his early age that no pitcher has done in the history of baseball on the plus side. So, Fran Healy, should be a flamethrower's delight.
It really should be. Of course, it's hot enough out here as it is. And as you mentioned, Ralph, Nolan Ryan and Dwight Gooden both getting the ball up there 90-plus miles per hour. Nolan Ryan is amazing. He's about 37 years old and continues to overpower Major League batters and will for years to come. Of course, it's interesting looking at both ball clubs. The Mets with a comfortable 12.5 game lead over the Montreal Expos, and the Houston Astros fighting to stay in the race, a half game behind the San Francisco Giants in the West.
And we'll be back for the start of this ball game, and it'll be a beauty right after this commercial message.
In 1985, Gary Carter was an offensive powerhouse, smashing 32 homers and racking up 100 RBIs. What does Gary see for the '86 season?
Going into this season and coming off of last year, I know that I can't afford another knee surgery. Dr. Parks assures me that from time to time you'll feel some discomfort and all in it, but not to get too discouraged on it and just go out there and do the best you can.
Get to know Gary Carter on Sportschannel.
Nolan Ryan on the mound with a record of 4-6, an earned run average of 4.70. Nolan has worked 76 2/3 innings. He has given up 68 hits, 71 strikeouts, 38 walks. And he has struck out more batters than any pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball.
I'll verify that. Here's the lineup he's going to face. Len Dykstra, Wally Backman, and Keith Hernandez. Cleanup hitter Darryl Strawberry. Number 5, Gary Carter. Then Danny Heap. Howard Johnson to follow Heap, then Santana, and then Dwight Gooden.
And the defense, Davis, Doran, Reynolds, and Walling first to third. Cruz, Gainey, and Bass in the outfield left to right. Mizarok is the catcher, and the leadoff batter for the Mets will be Len Dykstra. Dykstra hitting .306, 2 home runs, 17 RBIs. Len 4 for 9, hitting .444 in his hitting against the Houston ball club. And Ryan's first pitch, a fastball for ball 1. Dykstra playing center field tonight, alternating with Mookie Wilson, and Mookie having a fine year, hitting .288. And Dykstra goes after a pitch out of the strike zone, fouls it into the dugout. Rick Aguilera enjoying a little repass there.
Sunflower seeds as he relaxes and watches the ball game. By the way, Nolan Ryan's control at times has been a positive thing for him. He's just wild enough to make the hitter uncomfortable at the plate.
He has also walked more batters than anybody in the history of Major League Baseball, and there's a breaking ball hit foul into the stands at count 1 and 2.
Excellent point, Ralph. And on the other hand, I think his control has hurt him, as you mentioned, those walks.
What is that?
It's a frightening sight.
Not the walks. The picture there. Ryan has walked 2,221 batters in his Major League career, and he has struck out 4,154.
And another thing that might have hurt Nolan, did hurt Nolan along the way, is his inability to keep runners close to first.
This one hit down the right field line. If it's fair, it's extra bases. Fair ball. So Len Dykstra continues to pound the ball as he leads off with a double.
Trying to capture the center field position for the Mets. He's captured the hearts of the fans here at Shea. You don't see this very often when Nolan has an overpowering stuff. A ball pulled right down the line, especially a pitch out over the plate. It's usually a struggle to pick up doubles off Nolan Ryan, but right there, Lenny Dykstra just ripping that ball down the right field line.
So the Mets have a runner in scoring position with no one out. And Wally Backman, the batter. Backman tearing it up, hitting .352 with no home runs, 10 RBIs.
By the way, Dykstra, his 11th double of the season.
Backman in his last 3 games as a starter, 3 hits, and 2 hits. Over his last 18 games, he's batting .415. And he moves out as though to bunt, takes it for ball 1.
The Mets playing this year as if their talents were insulted last year. Getting the job done as you take a look at that defense. Mets getting great production from almost all their players, catching some breaks along the way. You need them.
Type of year you need, and the type of year you can win. And that ball grounded to second, a good out for Backman, if there's such a thing, as he moves the runner over to third.
You're absolutely right, Ralph. Wally Backman doing the job, getting the runner over to third base, something you don't see in the box score, advancing a runner and giving yourself up.
Anytime you can gain 90 feet on an out, you're going ahead of the game.
Now, you were a general manager. Would you keep that in your mind when you were negotiating a contract?
Absolutely, because those players are winning players.
You were probably the type of guy to cut everybody.
Not really. I once gave a raise to a ball player as a general manager unsolicited. He didn't even ask for it. He was doing such a good job. I called him in and said, "You need more money. You're playing better than that."
That was spoken like a player when you did that.
That's right. Here's Keith Hernandez, a fine player, and he takes the curveball for strike 1. Keith this year against the Astros batting .333, 4 hits and 12 at-bats. And overall, Keith in a batting slump, hit down around .220 for the month of June, and his average at .294 with 5 home runs and 33 RBIs. Infield is in this early in the game, and it goes through that, drawn in infield for a base hit.
Well, the Astros got to believe they're not going to score many runs against Dwight Gooden. Hal Lanier had the infield drawn in, and the ball hits right up the middle off the bat of Keith Hernandez. Here it is again, right back up the middle, base hit. Run scores. It's 1-0 Mets as Lenny Dykstra comes on to score. Great basic baseball, fundamental baseball. Dykstra doubles, Backman gets him over. Hernandez gets the base hit. It's 1-0.
And it brings up Darryl Strawberry, hitting .299 now with 12 home runs, 44 RBIs. Darryl with 2 big home runs in last night's ball game. Had his 11th multiple home run game last night when he had 2. And he takes the breaking ball for ball 1.
He's had 2 of those multiple home run nights this year.
Darryl with a 2-run home run to tie it, and then a 2-home run to tie it in the 10th inning. And that was followed by Ray Knight's home run that won it. After Ray Knight had struck out his first 4 times up, he wins the ball game with a home run in the bottom of the 9th inning.
This could be the year for the Mets when that happens. Usually when you strike out 4 times in a game, they're going to get you the 5th time.
Strawberry hitting .448 over that span. And it's missed, and the count at 1-2.
You know, Ralph, we've heard so many times that Darryl Strawberry would remind you of Ted Williams. The guy Darryl Strawberry reminds me of when he swings a bat is Willie McCovey. He has that long swing.
He doesn't have a Ted Williams swing.
No.
Ted Williams had a more compact swing and actually a better swing than Darryl Strawberry.
This is more of a sweep swing, something similar to Willie McCovey, of course, who is going into the Hall of Fame this year.
No, you don't knock the swing because it's a good one. There goes the runner, and the ball has popped up. Coming over is Walling, looking for it, fighting that sun, and it goes out of play. Talking about Ted Williams' swing, one of the greatest swings, if not the greatest swing in the history of the game of baseball. Maybe only Babe Ruth with a better one.
Here's that swing. Take a look. That sweeping swing. Kicks that leg back and drives into the ball. One of the reasons Darryl can go into that slump. There's that sweeping swing. When he has that long stride, you can go into a slump. You really have to be in a groove to have that long stride.
Right there, you can see why he fouled the ball off. That front leg has buckled, and that has kept him from getting up to the ball, and he was behind it and fouled it off to the left side. Front leg should be straight at contact.
And when you hit the ball, that front leg being straight at contact, that front leg is already on the ground.
Planted, and you hit against it. Which is something that not many people really understand.
It's a step and then a swing.
1 ball, 2 strikes. And the breaking ball, good play by the catcher.
I think usually those guys with a long stride, there's more room for error if you tend to go into a slump. But also, when you have that long stride, that gliding stride, when you're in the groove, it's almost like a streak.
You can also hit it farther that way.
Those guys at the short stride are more difficult to fool as you look at Keith Hernandez.
And Strawberry fooled in that pitch, and he is struck out.
If Darryl doesn't give in at all to the pitcher, I think as he gets a little older and he plays with guys like Hernandez and Carter and those veterans, he will give in, maybe take a shorter stride with 2 strikes. There's a bad ball. Darryl committed himself and went through. There's that kick. And we're talking about a guy who had 2 mammoth home runs last night. So you take the good with the bad because you're going to get a lot more good than you will bad.
And now the batter is Gary Carter, hitting .244 with 13 home runs. Second in runs batted in with 56. Second in the National League, and there's ball 1.
Now, if you take a look at Carter's stride, he takes a lot shorter stride than Darryl Strawberry. Last year in '85, he was the 7th most difficult batter to strike out in the National League.
Carter 1 RBI behind Mike Schmidt, who leads the National League with 57. That's leading 1-0. And there's a swing and a miss. There's 1 ball, 1 strike.
Here's the side angle of Gary Carter taking a stride. See that stride right there? Although he took a little longer than the first time. But he has the great head. He keeps that head right on the ball.
Hitting is a compromise. You have to cut down on stride for contact. And by doing so, you lose some power. So you got to adjust back and forth to find out what's best for you. And this ball hit high in the air in foul territory, and it'll be out of play.
You know, you look at a guy like Gary Carter swing the bat, or another guy that comes to mind, Steve Garvey. When they swing, the head goes down because they're right on the ball. Let's see if he does it right here. The head goes down.
Oh, that's a good swing right there. He's behind the pitch.
Excellent shot right there for the illustration. And the front leg, stiff front leg, short stride, the head going down.
Weight off the back heel. Picture perfect swing, but even though the swing is perfect, the result is not perfect.
So, I mean, you're going to fail 7 out of 10 times. But this guy here, he's a good hitter, good fundamentals.
Difference between golf and baseball. Golf, you can make a perfect swing and hit it perfectly because you're not having to judge what's happening to the ball.
Ball just sitting there.
That's right.
And you're facing a guy like Ryan who's getting it up there 90 miles per hour, plus a good curveball, plus he's wild enough where you say, well, I've got to make sure this guy's throwing the ball over the plate.
And you got to do all that in less than 2/5 of a second with Nolan Ryan pitching. 1-2 the count to Carter, and now it's 2-2.
You know, it's interesting also when you get to the plate and you're standing there, that's exactly what it is. It's a comfortable stance, and then when you try to hit, you have to get your hands back in a hitting position. And Ralph, I was watching old footage the other day of days gone by that you could relate to, and those hitters, instead of the preparatory hitch going back, it went down.
That's true.
Down and then up.
Just so you get it back up again. You can go down with your hands, come back up, and that's a good way to hit. Babe Ruth did that. And there's a swing and a miss as Ryan strikes out 2 in the inning, but he gives up 1 run on 2 hits and leaves 1. And the score at the end of 1, the Mets 1 and Houston nothing. I'd like to remind you this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Mets and is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Mets and Sports Channel is prohibited. Announcers on this telecast were selected by Sports Channel and approved by the Mets.
Ralph, we're going to see some guys swinging the bats right after this guy here.
And Kevin Bass having a great month of June, hitting .309 for the year with 11 home runs and 29 RBIs. He was the player of the month in the National League for the month of June. And Bass hits one into right center. It'll drop in. Coming over as Dykstra to field it, and Bass continues to hit.
We're going to take a look at Strawberry now swinging the bat. There's his swing, a long swing.
Number 25.
He's young, he's strong, he has that long stride, long swing, and as we mentioned last night, he had 2 home runs. Now here's Hernandez, look at that. A shorter stride, and he's right on the ball.
And a better position with his back knee.
And the same thing with Gary Carter.
And a good position, outstanding position for Carter with that back knee. That's really shifting your weight into the ball.
And of course, Carter and Hernandez with the shorter stroke and shorter strides than Strawberry.
And a throw to first base, and Bass back in there. Bass with 12 stolen bases, so he has to be watched. The leader on the club is Doran with 26. Houston with 83 stolen bases. They've been successful 69% of the time. And another one the first. And the Mets, on the other side of that coin, have only thrown out 20% of the base runners trying to steal.
I really and truly think they're going to have to let the pitchers cheat again. At least give them a shot. Give the catcher a shot at throwing them out. Easiest thing, well, one of the easiest things to do in baseball is to steal a base.
Look at the average percent of success, you're looking at around 70% of the time.
So it's relatively easy.
So you're ahead of the game here.
And you know, they blame it on the pitcher 99% of the time, but they really shouldn't, because you know, when you throw the ball as a catcher, you know that a lot of times you don't make the perfect throw and a guy steals a base on the catcher.
Well, look at that stat. 30 home runs on the road and 1 at home in 2 years.
I think he psyched out in the Astrodome?
In 3 years, actually, counting this year.
I think a lot of hitters get psyched out, although they've brought the fences in a little bit in the Astrodome. This guy here has been a .288 lifetime major league hitter.
251 this year.
Another underrated player. Of course, in Houston, they just don't get the publicity other players get. If you're going to play baseball, you're better off playing in New York, Chicago, L.A., but you better have good years, because those towns can also bury you.
It works 2 ways, doesn't it?
Yes.
Cruz has not had a home run this year. And it's a fastball. Dwight Gooden working here in the second inning with no one out. A runner on first base. The Mets leading 1-0. The Mets in games when they have scored first have a record going of 38 wins and 9 losses. Of course, their overall record better than that. Got him. So Kevin Bass picked off at first base.
Well, Helen, you're not worried about it. Here it is again. Kevin Bass. Oh, he's caught. Nice pickoff by Dwight Gooden. And they nailed Kevin Bass. A lot of times a base stealer will guess that the pitcher's going home and try to get a bigger jump. And when you guess wrong, you can be embarrassed.
And a good job on the rundown play as Keith Hernandez closed the distance between the runner, which is the way you want to do it, so you can get right to him. You follow that runner down as he's going away from you.
And get the ball to the base he's advancing to in a hurry, and have, in that case, Santana run the runner back towards first base, and then you say, now he gives you the ball and you tag.
And a strikeout as Jose Cruz goes after the high fastball.
Here it is again, Dwight Gooden throwing that heater by Jose Cruz. You've heard it so many times, you've got to get the good pitchers early, and in this case, 2 good pitchers, Nolan Ryan and Dwight Gooden. There's Jose Cruz.
That'll bring up Craig Reynolds. Reynolds hitting .275 with 3 home runs, 22 runs batted in.
Well, he's done a fine job for the Astros over the years. He's been on the All-Star team in the American League and the National League.
Not many have done that. And the breaking ball for ball 1. He has played 4 positions this season. Of course, Kevin Mitchell has played 6 positions, excuse me, this season. and has started at 5 different positions. 2 balls, no strikes to Craig Reynolds as you look at Mr. Mitchell. Played in last night's ball game. This ball chopped out to Hernandez. Gooden covering at first base, and that'll do it. No runs, 1 hit, a man picked off, no one left on base. The score at the end of 1.5. It's the Mets 1 and Houston nothing. Well, we're going to the bottom half of the second. The Mets leading 1-0. The Mets scoring in the first inning off Nolan Ryan. Ryan has had 54 career shutouts in his major league career, 1 short of Steve Carlton, who has just signed a contract with the San Francisco Giants. So Carlton back in the National League. And
the Giants a half game in front of the Houston Astros, and they say that Carlton might start that ball game Monday for the Giants. Giants with a 43-36 record, best record in baseball, right here at Shea Stadium. 53-21, unbelievable pace.
Pace of 7:16 as Danny Heap steps in. Danny with his birthday yesterday, 29 years of age, starting here in this ball game today. Danny, a left-hand batter with Foster not playing, and the curveball by Ryan for ball 1.
The catcher, John Miserock, is a defensive catcher. The Astro pitchers like to pitch to him. They did not like to pitch to a kid named Mark Bailey, who's now in the minor leagues.
And the breaking ball. And the count 2 balls, no strikes.
So those pitchers can make or break you as a catcher. Mark Bailey last year had a fine year for the Astros, and now he's back in the minor leagues.
And the fastball fouled back out of play.
They say Bailey's offense was not good and it affected his defense.
There you see Nolan Ryan, dating back to '69, struck out 3 of the 10 batters he faced. And that's where the world's champions. They used him in relief. And the off-speed pitch, and Ryan now throwing some change-ups. And I'm not sure whether he uses that split finger or not, but he very well could.
He had a change-up when he pitched for the California Angels. The only thing, it was about 89 miles an hour.
Those are the breaking ball, and the count 3-2. Ryan came to the Mets in 1968. The most games he ever won for the Mets was a total of 10. He was not a winning pitcher as a Met, and then was traded to the California Angels. His first year with the Angels, he won 19. This ball foul.
I think he frustrated Gil Hodges with his lack of control and the pitching coach. And one theory I heard was Gil Hodges felt that he would never get control of his pitches, and Gil played with Rex Barney with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and he had trouble, and he kind of put the 2 in the same category, therefore allowed that trade for Jim Fregosi.
They said about Rex Barney, if the strike zone had been high and outside, he would have been in the Hall of Fame. I hit against Rex Barney, the hardest pitcher, fastest throwing pitcher ever hit against. And there's a ground ball to the shortstop. Tough play for Reynolds, and he cannot make it as Danny Heap is safe.
Oh, here it is again. Danny Heap hitting on top of that ball. Good movement on it. And Craig Reynolds comes in, ball stays down and comes out of the glove. So a base hit for Danny Heap.
That puts a runner at first base with no one out and brings up Howard Johnson. Johnson hitting .253, 3 home runs, 14 RBIs. Johnson 1 for 6 against Houston this year. And a throw to first base.
Mentioned before, one of the problems that Nolan has had throughout his career is guys stealing bases when he's pitching. Not easy to get on, but when you get on, they take advantage of the opportunity to steal the base.
And he comes back and misses. 1 ball, no strikes. Davey Johnson, the manager of the Mets, sitting on a 53-21 record, 32 games over 500. Mets in first place by 12.5 games, their biggest margin this year or ever. And the breaking ball in there, called strike.
Usually when you hit against a guy like Nolan Ryan, you have to sit on that fastball. I saw a guy, Carl Taylor, he might have spent some time with the Mets. He was in Kansas City, and he swung 3 times very late at Nolan Ryan. Somebody said, what happened? He said, I was guessing breaking ball. Can you believe it?
He doesn't deserve to be in a baseball uniform, thinking that way. Here's the 1-1 pitch. And the off-speed pitch again. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Never forget that. We were confused.
Ryan, of course, one of the greatest strikeout pitchers of all time, if not the greatest. Holds the all-time record. 4,156 strikeouts.
I get hit by him. That's quite an experience.
It'd take for the bruise to go away.
Oh, wow. And Ralph, he hit me on the run. I was heading towards the backstop when it got me.
3-1, the count to Howard Johnson.
It hurts even more because you know he goes, ugh, when he throws the ball.
Ryan has struck out 15 or more batters 21 times in his major league career. An unbelievable record. And a check swing gets by the catcher. It's ball 4, I guess.
You don't need balls to move like this. Watch Mizrak try to catch this ball. He almost used the glove as to slap the ball to the ground. Watch this. Oh, I'll tell you. It's tough to handle a guy like Nolan Ryan.
So runners at first and second, and we're not really sure whether that was a strikeout and he got first. No, it couldn't have been.
No, because Nolan Ryan wanted home plate umpire Ed Montague to appeal to Lee Wire.
Yeah, there's no way he can be on first base if it were a strikeout because first base were occupied. So it is a walk. And the fastball to Santana for ball 1. Raphael hitting at 167, no home runs, 9 RBIs.
Here's Howard. Looked like he went around, but it was a call to ball.
And Santana pulls it foul. 1 ball, 1 strike to Raphael. Nolan Ryan with the all-time strikeout record for a single season. Struck out 382 batters. And the curveball.
Here's the reaction where he appeals. He wants that appeal to Lee Wire. Lee Wire said he did not go around and it was ball 4.
So Ryan loses that one, although he has won 245 major league decisions against 224 losses.
You think with his stuff, there'd be a wider margin there. That control has hurt him. Well, he's awesome when you're batting.
And the fastball foul back out of play.
I faced him in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. 1967, he struck out 19 batters in that ball game. I was 5 of them.
Jim Murray, the great writer for the Los Angeles Times, said Ryan with his 5 no-hitters, 9 one-hitters, over 4,000 strikeouts and 54 shutouts, and an overall record of 245 and 224 is like someone shooting 11 birdies in a round of golf and ending up with a 91.
I know, that's amazing, really. When you face this guy, you wonder why he doesn't win 30. He threw a no-hitter against the Kansas City Royals when I was with him. I'll tell you, he would throw, if he didn't throw a no-hitter, he'd throw a 1 or 2 hitter. It was a bad day for him if we got more than 2 hits off him.
And he was drafted in the 8th round of the 1965 draft by the Mets, something like the 365th player drafted that year.
Yeah, that's amazing. Somebody missed their scouting assignment that year.
And the fastball fouled to the right side.
I guess the hardest thrower was a little guy with the Baltimore Oriole farm system.
Grabowski. Was that his name?
Well, that wasn't it. You're close, though. He was from Hartford, Connecticut, in that area. Oh, he had everybody scared to death. I remember when Major League teams went down to play him in the minor leagues, the regulars would not play against this guy. He threw so hard.
Now, I have heard that he threw the ball 120 miles an hour. Now, that's 20 miles an hour faster than anybody's ever been clocked. They said they tried to clock him, but he was so wild he couldn't throw it in the clocking device. Ground ball to the second baseman, Duran. They try for two, and they get it. So Santana grounds into a double play.
Danny Heath going to third base. Big double play right here. Ball getting in on Santana. Ground ball. Second base scored 4-6-3. So a pitcher's delight. What was that guy's name?
I'll think of it in a minute.
He threw almost as hard as Sid Finch.
Well, that was well worked on. Now it's Dwight Gooden's turn, and the first pitch for ball one. Dalkowski was his name.
That's right, Dalkowski. He was only about 5'8".
5'8", a left-handed pitcher, wore glasses. And the great story about him was told to me by Jim Fry. There's a strike call, 1-1. He had never seen him pitch in the minors, and Jim Fry was playing in the minors, was a fine hitter. And they brought him in from the bullpen, and when he came in to warm up, the entire grandstand behind home plate moved away. He had been throwing balls over the catcher's head into the grandstand, through the screen.
Well, I heard that Major League teams, there's Yogi Berra, he'd have stepped in there. I heard Major League teams would go down and play their minor league team, and if he was going to pitch, nobody wanted to play.
Dalkowski, and he belonged to the Baltimore Orioles.
Was it Bruce Dalkowski?
Steve, I believe.
Steve Dalkowski.
2 balls, 1 strike to Gooden, and he has an idea about bunting for a base hit to get the runner in.
Sport Magazine did an article on Steve Dalkowski a few years ago. I guess he's fallen on hard times.
Unfortunately, he has. Had a drinking problem, which he could not resolve.
Probably because of all that ability, he couldn't deal with it not getting in the major leagues.
And Dwight hits it down the right field side. It's curving foul, and it is out of play.
You know, you think of a situation like Dalkowski, you think of Sandy Koufax. When he first came up, he was awfully wild. And Larry Sherry, or Norm Sherry. Norm Sherry convinced him to take a little bit off that fastball, and he started to get control, and of course, he's now in the Hall of Fame. When you're speaking of speed, all you have to do is look at your monitor and see Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan broke Sandy Koufax's strikeout record when he struck out his 382nd batter in the season. Sandy had struck out 381.
Nolan Ryan was clocked the fastest ever, but 104 miles per hour.
And the fastball foul back.
Bob Feller, as you mentioned on a different cable cast, Ralph said that he wasn't timed correctly.
Yeah, he said he threw the ball as hard, and I wouldn't doubt it. But that when he was clocked, they clocked him at home plate. In other words, the speed of the ball diminishing from the friction of the air when it gets to home plate. Or if you're clocked when you release the ball, you're much faster at that point before the friction takes over. And now the count, 3 balls and 2 strikes.
In the minor leagues, you see a lot of hard throwers. In fact, a lot of them don't get to the major leagues, whether it's control trouble or they run into arm trouble. But you see some guys that can really get the ball up there, plus those bad lights. If you're a good hitter, it's easier to hit in the major leagues. Better conditions.
3-2 the count. And it's grounded off of Dwight's foot for a foul ball. Here is a stat on Dalkowski, Steve Dalkowski. He never pitched 1 inning in the major leagues. In 995 innings in the minor leagues, he struck out 1,396 batters and walked 1,354.
Wow, that's a lot of pitches.
Steve Dalkowski, he once pitched a one-hit game, struck out 21. That was back in 1959, and lost it 9-8. They say blind people would go to the ballpark just to hear him pitch. Here's a 3-2 pitch. And ball 4. So Gooden outlasts Nolan Ryan as he draws a walk, putting runners at first and third with 2 men out and bringing up Len Dykstra.
So if Nolan was hurt throughout his career, it would be in a situation like this where he lost the pitcher, and now he'll face Lenny Dykstra, who doubled sharply off him in the first inning to lead off the game for the Mets, or to lead off the bottom of the first for the Mets. The most uncomfortable at bat you can get is off Nolan Ryan. At least a few years ago it was. If you were a right-handed batter.
Worse than he. Ewell Blackwell.
Oh, I heard he was nasty.
He was a sidearm, hard-throwing right-hander, and man, when he started a ball game, everybody said, "Let's go to the hospital." I want to be checked for something. Maybe they can find something wrong with me.
Get me out of that lineup.
1-0 the count. Box by the catcher.
I'll tell you, that's the second time. This poor guy, John Mizrak, this can happen when you're catching a guy like Nolan Ryan. As hard as he throws and he gets some ball movement, oh, it can really, you can box up a crate back there.
Ryan has had 6 wild pitches so far this year, and he has an outstanding curveball. He has as good a curve as you'll see, and he bounces that a lot. There is the curveball chopped out to the shortstop Reynolds. And Dykstra is thrown out. So that'll do it. The Mets threaten but do not score. No runs on 1 hit, 2 walks, a double play, and 1-2 left on base. And the score at the end of 2, the Mets 1 and Houston nothing. Host the Houston Astros. The Mets and Astros tomorrow at 6:45 only on Sportschannel. And it's Dwight Gooden taking his warm-up pitches, preparatory to pitching to the bottom part of the batting order. John Mizrak, Nolan Ryan, and then the top man, Bill Doran, as the Mets lead by a score of 1-0. An aspiring young ball player getting a little sun out there. Mizrak doing the catching in this ball game, hitting 182. He's been up 22 times with 4 base hits. Last night's ball game, he was 0 for 3. And the fastball by Gooden for ball 1.
You know, Ralph, excuse me, I told you that story the other day, or a few moments ago, about Mizrak and Mark Daly, the catcher, where the pitchers complain he's now back in the minor leagues. There's a guy in the Astro bench that in 1948 the pitchers complained about him, and Bucky Harris took him from behind the plate and put him in right field.
Les Moss?
No, you won't believe it.
Who is that?
Yogi Berra.
1948?
Yeah, pitchers complained about him. They took him out from behind the plate and put him in right field.
And a strike call, 3 balls and 1 strike. That was his first year in the majors?
Yeah, and he threw so well from right field that the following spring, Bill Dickey worked with him. And, of course, he's in the Hall of Fame.
And it's ball 4. Gooden walks his first batter. Yogi Berra said about Bill Dickey that Dickey learned him his experience.
Dickey's a character.
Dickey, one of the greatest hitters that ever caught in baseball.
Pitcher Nolan Ryan.
Now it's Nolan Ryan coming up, and he's in a bunting situation. Ryan hitting 154 with 4 hits. He's driven in 3 runs, and he's had 1 major league home run. And that was against Don Sutton when he returned to the National League after leaving the National League and going to the American. Oh, it's done it hard. A play at second base. They get 1. They get 2.
Nobody does it better than Keith Hernandez. Watch this. Watch when he comes in. That right hip is open So all he has to do is step and throw towards second base. It's open, he steps, perfect throw, has a great arm. Santana back to Backman. They did it the hard way, and they did it so well. Keith Hernandez to Santana, who goes to first. It's a 3-6-4 double play.
Well, they say that George Sisler made that play extremely well, one of the greatest players that ever played in the Hall of Fame. Also, man, I saw play, Ferris Payne made that play very, very well.
Think of a guy named Wes Parker. Hodges must have done it pretty well also.
A little bit easier for a left-handed thrower to do it than a right-handed thrower.
One of the reasons they like a left-hander at first base.
Now the batter is Bill Dorn. Dorn flied to center field his first time up, hitting .270 on the year. 9 for 26 against Gooden lifetime. Boy, there's a good curveball.
You know, talking about having the hip open and throw to second base. When you look at the infielders or outfielders, they always have one leg in front of the other, even when they're preparing. For example, they're going down into the position to get ready.
And the fastball just misses. 2-2 the count.
It's usually the left foot in front of the right foot.
Curveball, top foul, another good one. Last time Gooden lost to Houston was back on May the 6th, 1984. And he lost to Nolan Ryan when Ryan beat the Mets, his last win against the Mets, 10-1. There's one of those high bouncers, a high chopper. 2-2 the count.
You know, you talked about Bill Dorn's 26 stolen bases. It's a career high, and he's at 26 right now. For an underrated ball player, Bill Dorn.
Back to the toy cannon. Here's a pitch taken high for a fastball ball. The toy cannon Wynn. Jim Wynn?
Yeah, Jimmy Wynn.
He has the club record for home runs with 37 back in 1967, but he never led the National League in home runs. Chopped out to Hernandez, and that retires the side. No runs, a walk, no hits, a double play, no one left on base. The score at the end of 2.5 innings, the Mets won, and the Houston Astros nothing.
It's time for the race for the pennant. Introducing our players. Dwight Gooden, alias Dr. K, baseball's youngest 20-game winner, the man who strikes fear in the hearts of batters, and his battery mate, Gary the Kid Carter, one of the RBI leaders in the National League, a perennial all-star. Will this dynamic duo be able to combine forces to bring the pennant to New York this year? To find out this and more, stay tuned to Sports Channel.
Caps, caps. Everybody at Shea is wearing caps. And you can too. Saturday, July 5th at 7:05 when the Mets host the Houston Astros, every fan in attendance will receive a 25th anniversary New York Mets baseball cap courtesy of Manufacturers Hanover Trust. All fans receive a Mets 25th anniversary baseball cap absolutely free. So come on out and catch the Mets as they take on the Houston Astros July 5th and receive a Mets 25th anniversary baseball cap courtesy of Manufacturers Hanover Trust absolutely free.
Well, the Mets continue tomorrow night on Manufacturers Hanover Trust 25th anniversary cap night. Final game of this series on Sunday afternoon will be against these Astros. Then Pete Rose and the Cincinnati Reds will make their last appearance of the season here at Shea in a 3-game series July 7th, 8th, and 9th. Then the Atlanta Braves come to town Thursday, July 10th. The series continues on Friday night, the 11th, Saturday afternoon, the 12th, on the Equitable Old Timers Day, and concludes on Sunday afternoon, the 13th, on Thanks Rusty Staub Day. Due to the heavy demand of tomorrow night's Manufacturers Hanover Cap Night and also July 12th's Equitable Old Timers Day, tickets for both of these games are available at Shea Stadium's advanced ticket window only. For all other home games, tickets can be purchased at all Ticketron outlets at Shea Stadium's advanced ticket window or call 718-507-TIXX for more information.
And we're going now to the bottom half of the third. Wally Backman, the leadoff for the Mets. And the first pitch by Nolan Ryan, ball one. Backman grounded out his first time up. Wally has been red hot, having his greatest year as a Met. And he attributes his improvement to Keith Hernandez, watching him and talking to him about how pitchers pitch. Another ground out to second for Wally Beckman. He's 0 for 2.
I think that's something that doesn't happen as much as you look at Mel Stottlemyre talking to Dwight Gooden about mechanics. Steve Garland, a trainer, is listening.
So 1 away, and Keith Hernandez the batter. Keith single up the middle to drive in the only run of this ball game, his first time up.
It's an interesting point you just made, Ralph, about Wally Beckman talking to Keith Hernandez. I don't think players do that enough or as much as they used to do it.
Keith is a little reticent about talking about other pitchers because he always feels that he might be traded, and he doesn't want people to know what he thinks.
That's a good point.
Hernandez hitting .294 coming into this ball game, now has 34 RBIs to go with his 5 home runs.
Fernando Valenzuela will not talk to the media about how he pitches hitters, and I think that's a good idea. There's a young baseball fan here at Shea Stadium.
Pitch him high and tight.
Somebody's stealing the power. I thought that was his power.
So Ryan on the mound, working to Keith Hernandez. Count of 2 balls and 1 strike. Ryan has given up 1 run on 3 hits. He has struck out 2, and there's a curveball grounded foul. 2-2 the count to Keith. .1981, Nolan Ryan 11-5. Tom Seaver 14-2. Fernando Valenzuela 13-7. Valenzuela was the Cy Young Award winner, although Tom Seaver really had the better stats. But Valenzuela was a rookie that year, and he also pitched 8 shutouts, and that set an all-time record for shutouts by a rookie pitcher.
That was the strike-shortened season.
Tom Seaver, of course, has been the MVP, should say the Cy Young Award winner 3 times. Steve Carlton has won it 4, the only man to win it 4 times, although if they had given away 2 Cy Young Awards, Sandy Koufax would have won it 4 or 5 times.
All right there, Keith Hernandez going down, swinging over the top of that fastball. Here's Wally Beckman's stance. How about that, Ralph? Look at those hands.
I don't like to see a bat laid off like that, but he's not a power hitter.
That's right. It doesn't matter because the bat has to come up. There's Hernandez, and I like his. Now he takes those hands and moves them back into the hitting position. That's his stance, and then boom, they go back into the hitting position. He's ready.
And now here's Strawberry, who moves his bat around a lot. And the first pitch, a fastball for ball 1. Darrell was struck out his first time up. Got him with a change of pace.
Ted Williams used to grind that bat when he waited to pitch.
Sawdust had come out of it. There's a ground ball hit softly to the first base side of his foul.
And you really have to keep those hands relaxed. You can't hit if you're not relaxed. I remember Charlie Lau talking about getting that tension level down. That's one of the reasons he had the hitters swinging that bat in front of them in a relaxed fashion, trying to get the tension level down. And he used Rod Carew as an example, and of course George Brett would get that bat out there and try to get the tension level down.
Tim McCarver just pointed out that a pitcher named Russell had 8 shutouts his rookie year, but I also found out about that. One of those shutouts was not a complete game, and you cannot have a shutout without a complete game. So the records there were inconclusive on Russell.
Well, tear that page out of that book.
But he is credited with 8 shutouts along with Fernando Valenzuela.
But you disagree.
Well, if you don't have a complete game, you can't have a shutout.
So the book is wrong.
Yeah. Remember that.
I like that. You know,
either the book was wrong or the fellow that had the information on the non-complete game was wrong.
How about this guy getting some sun?
2-2. The count to Darryl Strawberry. Mets leading 1-0. 2 men out, bottom half of the 3rd. And Strawberry struck out for the 2nd time. 4th strikeout for Nolan Ryan, his first 1-2-3 inning. And the score at the end of 3 here at Shea Stadium. The Mets 1 and the Astros 0.
May was Ray Knight. In June, George Foster. In July, might be Tim McCarver as he joins us in the booth.
All of my plays are past, pal. Only plays I make now are the ones that start at 7:30 or 8 o'clock on Broadway. If you remember that play by Ray Knight, the Met Play of the Month in May, was made against this ball club in the 2-game series against Phil Garner with runners at first and second, 2 out in the 9th inning of a 3-2 game. Knight saved the ball from going into left field and eventually saved the game with that play.
Jesse Orozco got the save in that ball game, and right now, Ty Gainey's the batter. He doubled his first time up, doubled into left field.
That was May 15th. Striving for accuracy up here, Franny, my boy.
You got it. Okay, now what was the day of the home run?
The day of what home run?
Hanging out the Met Play of the Month. That's George Foster.
Oh, that's George Foster's. You got me.
All right. But we will research
this
that.
isn't a quiz. I gave you half of it.
All right. Fastball fouled out of play. 1-1. We got a 1-0 ball game. Mets on top of the Astros, and we have 2 fine pitchers in this game. Nolan Ryan for the Astros and Dwight Gooden for the Mets.
Bill Webb tells us that was June 5th that George Foster hit that home run.
Right off the top of his head.
That was all right, now I'll tell you who it was against. It was against Bob Kipper with 1 on. And so we surrounded that baby, but I did have help.
Okay, what sign did it hit at Three Rivers Stadium?
I'll tell you what it was. It was a down and in fastball. That was the pitch.
Okay.
But I don't know what sign it hit.
Ground ball. Great play. Wow. Scored 4-3.
Boy, this is a quality play. Backman from his knees. That's why the Mets need Wally Backman. Spears it in the web. Gets up. Gets to his feet and throwing at the same time. Boy, that was a good play.
So 1 man down, and the batter will be Denny Walling. He flied to center field his first time up. 1 man down. Gary Carter just looking at Walling's eyes. Down low, ball 1. Gary Carter with the tools of ignorance. He's not ignorant. He's trying to find out if this guy's peeking.
What a caustic comment that is. Tools of ignorance.
I know.
Who came up with that?
I have no idea. There's an extra base hit off the bat of Denny Walling down the right field line. And Strawberry gets the ball back in. Walling glided into second base with a stand-up double.
Interesting to see Strawberry catch that ball. He used the stands to brace himself. And he gloves it just like that Billy Smith would do with the Islanders. Watch this. Whoa, there it is. Glove save.
Big gloves. The glove can be no longer than 1 foot. Of course, it'd be tough to handle a glove longer than 1 foot. Glenn Davis is the batter. He's 0 for 1. He popped to second base his first time up. Last year he had 20 home runs and 64 RBIs. This year he has 17 and 50 now. He's a good-looking ball player. A lot of power. And he hits a high fly ball that will stay in the infield foul territory. Keith Hernandez makes the play. Not an easy play, but Hernandez makes them all look easy. 2 outs.
Davis really is a good hitter, but against the Mets it appears that he's been too anxious. Last night, in a situation with a runner at third base and 1 out, Davis popped up to Tim Tuffle. Davey Johnson had the infield in, and that turned out to be a big play. Kevin Bass grounded out, and the game went into extra innings, and what a finish.
Oh, boy, what an exciting finish.
2-run homer by Garner in the top of the 10th, and then Strawberry tied it with a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 10th, and with 2 out and nobody on, Knight ended it with a home run. All 6 Met runs last night coming on home runs.
Some long home runs in last night's game as Kevin Bass takes up high from Gooden, 1 ball and no strikes. Bass singled to center his first time up and then was promptly picked off first base. Just saw the line score, 1-0. The Mets on top of the Astros. And Bass takes a strike 1-1. Bass, the player of the month in June. Doing a fine job for the Astros. And Denny Walling leading off second base. Fouled off. Right before that pitch, Gary Carter was not as concerned about Kevin Bass looking back as he was when Denny Walling was at the plate. A lot of times, reputations.
Well, plus you're using a different set of signs with a runner on second base, too. With nobody on, you're using just one sign.
Well, I'm talking about looking at the hitter looking back.
Yeah, well, there's no need to look at the hitter in that situation because you're using a set of signs as opposed to just one.
Well, here's a ground ball to Hernandez. Score at 3-1, and the Astros leave a man stranded. We'll talk more about peaking when we come back. Right now, the score is 1-0 Mets on top of the Astros.